Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Maseches GITTEN DAF Mem Ches. We are holding on Mem Zayin Amud Beis at the last line of V'ozdul Tamayu, picking up where we left off yesterday. We had a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Reish Lakish in a case where a fellow was moicher sadeu leperos. So I sold the field, but not the actual field. I sold the right of use. You can farm it, you can reap the product, the produce, but the actual sada still belongs to me. What is the status of that field? Do we say kinyan peros ki kinyan haguf? When you buy the right of use, you buy the peros. It is considered having bought an aspect, an element of that field itself. So you can bring the first fruit as bikurim, and you could even read the parsha, where you make reference to the land that Hashem gave me. It's your land to a certain extent. You're a part owner in the actual karka, whereas that's Rabbi Yehuda. Reish Lakish says no. Kinyan peros, just because you have a right to take the peros, that is not considered an owner. That's not ba'alus. That's not ownership in the actual karka. Lav kikinyan haguf dami. Therefore, although you may bring bikurim, but you're not going to read the parsha of bikurim because it's not your land. It's not adama shenosatali. V'ozdul tamayu, says the Gemara. So actually, both shitas, Rabbi Yehuda, who says kinyan peros is tantamount to ownership, and Reish Lakish, who disagrees, they match their very same words elsewhere. The Itmar we have learned. Hamoicher sadeu bizman shayovel noyeg. So Reuven sells his field to Shimon when Yovel was being observed, which only happens when all of Klal Yisrael are residing in Eretz Yisrael. So when Yovel was in session, the halach would be that come Yovel, the 50th year, the fields revert to their former owners, to the seller. So what happens if I sell a field during that point in history? Now, it's a sale, it's a valid mechira, but it's not permanent. It's only sort of a right of use until Yovel comes. It comes back to me. It's like a kinyan peros. I intend on selling you the whole thing to make you a full owner. It's not actually just kinyan peros, but by default, it's like kinyan peros because it's a temporary ownership. So what happens now with respect to bikurim and mikra bikurim? The same exact machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda Amar maybe v'koyer. The customer can bring the bikurim and read the parsha. It's considered like it's his field. Reish Lakish Amar maybe v'enikir. No, he can't read the parsha. Why? Rabbi Yehuda Amar maybe v'koyer. Kinyan peros, the kinyan peros that the buyer has in this field, ke kinyan aguftami, is considered like he owns the actual field. There's an element of ownership in the field that he has. You have the field for the peros, so to speak, and therefore you can relate to it as your field. Reish Lakish Amar maybe v'enikir. You bring the bikurim, but you don't say the parsha. Why? Kinyan peros that you have in the field, lav, is not considered kinyan aguf dami. It's not considered absolute ownership, and therefore you can't say the parsha. So it's the very same discussion, very same machlekes. And the question is, why do we need two discussions on the same topic? Tzricha, both are needed. This discussion regarding selling a field when Yovel was being observed, and the previous discussion regarding selling the peros of a field. If we only discuss case number one, selling the peros of a field, I would say by he, Reish Lakish. Perhaps it's only in that case. But Reish Lakish considers that to be just, kinyan peros and not actual ownership. You know why? The kikon nachas, because when the buyer went into the field, adata the perikon nachas, his intention was simply peros, not guf. And therefore, we treat it as such. Aval bahach, but in the latter case, when he actually sold, he purchased the actual field, the entire field, full ownership. Da'adata de gufi kanachas. His intention was to take possession of the entire field. So although it so happens to be that by Torah law, the field reverts to its owner come the 50th year, but until then it's totally mine. Perhaps in this case, even Rish Lakish would agree to Rabbi Yechanan. He's considered full owner at least until Yovel. No, Chiddush is no. Temporary ownership, by default, is considered Kinyan Peiros, and therefore does not qualify for Mikra Bikurim. V'i itmar Baha. Had we only discussed this case, I would say Baha kam Rabbi Yechanan. Over here, Rabbi Yechanan says, well, you bought the field entirely, not just for its produce. You went into it entirely, as a full owner. I would say this is considered a proper owner. And over here, Rabbi Yechanan insists that even though it's, by definition temporary, but he's considered an owner until Yovel. Aval Bahach, but in the first case, where he bought the Peiros, period. Perhaps Rabbi Yechanan would agree to Rish Lakish, since he's only buying the produce, he's only buying the crop. Kinyan Peiros is not Kinyan Aguf Tzricha. That's why we discuss both cases in both situations. We have the same machlekes. Whether he sold him the Peiros, period, or whether he sold him the entire field, but by definition it's going to be a temporary sale because it only lasts until Yovel. In both cases, we have the same machlekes. How do we treat this Kinyan Peiros? Rabbi Yechanan says Kinyan Haguf, like actual ownership, whereas Rish Lakish says no. Toshma. Come listen to this kasha on Rish Lakish. We're going to prove that even Kinyan Peiros is considered ownership. Hakoyin ilan v'karkoy, a person purchased a fruit tree with the land beneath it from his friend in Eretz Yisrael. We're assuming Bizman Shayovel Noyeg, when Shemitah was being observed and Yovel was being observed. Maybe the one who purchased this fruit tree can bring Bikurim and read the parsha. Apparently, even though it was just a temporary sale, because Yovel is going to revert it. Kinyan Peiros says Kinyan Aguf. It's a right to Rabbi Yechanan. No, perhaps we're speaking when the Yovel was not being observed. And this could be, Rashi says, when the Beis Hamikdash was around, so Bikurim was being delivered, but some of the Shvatim were already sent away from Eretz Yisrael. So you can have the Beis Hamikdash without Yovel. And that's exactly what the Mishnah is reflecting. A situation where there's Bikurim, but there's no Yovel. So it's a permanent sale, and of course, he's considered the full owner. Tashma, another raya. So a fellow purchased 2 fruit trees within his friend's field. Maybe in this case, we don't say land is automatically included in the sale. So you just have your tree in the other person's field. You can bring Bikurim, but you can't say it's your field. Let's make it diuk. Shleisha. But if he buys 3 trees, that's already like an orchard, in which case we say the land comes along with it, and therefore maybe V'koyre, you can bring Bikurim and read the parsha. What do you mean? You're going to lose it by Yovel? It's only temporary. Perhaps this also reflects a situation where there was no Yovel, and it's a permanent sale. Continues the Gemara. There's another way to answer both these Mishnayos, in a way that it will not clash with Rish Lakish. Now that Rav Chizda taught us, Machlokes B'Yevel Sheni, this whole discussion, when does Rish Lakish say that a sale of property, when Yovel was being observed, is not considered a permanent sale and is not considered Kinyan Aguf? That's only B'Yevel Sheni. When Klal Yisrael entered Eretz Yisrael and they were already in the second Yovel cycle, so it's been established, it's been, accepted that Yovel is the cutoff time. Everybody saw the last Yovel, all fields and homes went back. So the mindset is that it's only temporary, because they know Yovel is going to be observed. It's a system that really works, so to speak. So there, Rish Lakish says it's only a temporary sale. It's not Kinyan Negov. Aval b'Yovel Rishon, but the first Yovel cycle in Eretz Yisrael. Divrei HaKoil Mevi V'Koyer, everybody agrees. People were not necessarily going into their sales with this mindset, because it wasn't yet true and tried. True and tried, it wasn't yet done. Although it was halach in the Torah, but people's minds, weren't necessarily so committed to it yet, until they actually saw it happening. So the das, the kavanah, the mindset, during that first period in Eretz Yisrael wasn't necessarily so Yovel oriented, and therefore when you buy a field, it was sort of, it's mine. So all agree that in that situation, you are maybe v'koirei, we consider like a permanent sale, and therefore we can now say the Gemara explains, because they weren't yet fully committed mentally. They weren't fully committed to that system. So according to this, like Kasha, we can answer these two Mishnahs that we mentioned, which indicate that it is a permanent sale. Haba Yovel Rishon, Haba Yovel Sheni. Right? That Rish Lakish considers it a temporary sale, Yovel Sheni, when it was already part of the system, was already instituted. Whereas these Mishnayos, which indicate otherwise, Yovel Rishon, when it wasn't yet instituted, and the kavanah was both of the seller and the buyer was going to be permanent, and therefore it's as good as a Kinyan Haguf, and therefore he brings Bikurim. Perhaps this machlekes of how to treat Kinyan Peres corresponds with a machlekes Tanoim. Minayin l'keach sadami of v'igdish. So before we begin, we're meant to know like this. There's something called sadeh mikneh, a field that was purchased. So you buy a field and then you are magdish it to the Beis HaMikdash. So in that case, if you fail to redeem it before Yovel, then the field gets distributed to the Kayhanim. Sorry, so if it's a field that you purchased, Sadeh Mikneh, you fail to redeem it before Yovel, so come Yovel, the field goes back to its owner, right? I buy a field, I magdish it. Come Yovel, it goes back to my owner. I had no right to magdish it permanently. It wasn't mine. It was only purchased. That's regarding a stay mikneh. A stay achuzah, an estate, a personal estate, which you inherited, which is a family plot, there it's totally different. If you're magdish that field and you fail to redeem it, come Yovel, it goes to the Kayhanim. It's distributed to the Kayhanim, it becomes their property. Okay, so knowing that, let's continue. Minayin lekeach. It's a Mishnah. Minayin lekeach sadami aviv. What about a case where a person purchased a field from his own father? Because that field was eventually going to be inherited to him. It was destined to be a stei achuzah, but right now he purchased it. V'igdisha, and he was magdish the field. V'achakach meis aviv. Then his father passes away. And now the son inherits it, right? How do we treat this field? You can say, well, it's a sadeh achuzah, because now it's his personal estate. But remember, he had already purchased it, and it was magdish it in that state. At the point of hegdish, it was a stay mikneh. So what system does it follow? What Allah would apply to this field? Menayin l'keach sadami aviv v'yigdisha v'achakach meis aviv. Menayin shetei lefanav k'stei achuzah. How do we know that we treat it like a stei achuzah? We look at the current moment, the current situation. Right now, it's a Yerusha. Tamaloymar imas stei miknasai, ashaloym is stei achuzasai. Pasuk spells it out. You want it to be a stei mikna? Sure. Ashaloym is stei achuzasai. Not only works if it's really a stei mikna, and doesn't even have potential to be a stei achuzah. Soda she'ena ru'il li'ay sadeh achuzah. A field which can never become your sadeh achuzah, that's considered a stei mikna, and has the halachas of stei mikna, as opposed to this case. Even though, truth to be told, at the point of hegdish it was a stei mikna, technically it was a purchase field. but it doesn't qualify as a stay mikna. Rather, it's considered stay achuza, yotzes hazu, as opposed to this case, sheruya liyasa de achuza. At the point of hegdish, it already had that potential to become a stay achuza, should his father pass away in the future. And the pasuk is telling us we treat it like a stay achuza. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Shimon, that's their shita. It's a big chiddush. He purchased it. He was magdish as a stay mikna. No, pasuk's telling you this field by definition is considered a stay achuza because it's slated to be a stay achuza. You're going to inherit it in the future, and therefore we treat it as a stay achuza. Rabbi Meir, no, not so fast. That's a bit of a chiddush. He says like this. In this case that we just mentioned, potential doesn't mean anything. What is treated as like a stay achuza? The following case, which is a lesser chiddush. What about a case where you purchase a field from your father, and this fellow's father passes away, and then he was maglish. So he purchased, his father passed away, and then he was maglish. So at the point of hegdish, what was it? An inheritance, or Yerusha, a family plot. That's a stei achuza. So even though he purchased it, it doesn't matter. Now it reverts into a stei achuza. How do we know that we treat it as such? Same pasuk. But rather than applying it to the greater chiddush, potential, no, not potential, actual. A stei mikna is one that's not a stei achuza, as opposed to this, which was relabeled as a stei achuza before you magdish it. As opposed to this one, which is already a stei achuza at the point of the hegdish. So we have a pasuk and two applications. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon say it's coming for the greater chiddush. Potential. According to Rabbi Meir, actual. V'ilu Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Shimon, and it's pretty clear that according to Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Shimon, the case of Rabbi Meir is so pashut and simple and so obvious, we don't need a pasuk for that. Rather, the pasuk is coming for potential, right? Meis aviv. Should the father die and then he's magdish it as a stei achuza? Of course it's stei achuza. You don't have to discuss that in the pasuk. Meis aviv achach chidisha. There's no need for a pasuk on that. It's obvious. Sure, he bought it, but then his father died. He inherited it, and now he's magdish it. Of course it's stei achuza. That's his. That's obvious without a pasuk. Rather, what is the pasuk coming to teach us? The other case, potential. So he purchased. He was a magdish, his purchase field. And then his father passed away. Torah is telling you, even though at the point of hegdish it was merely a purchase field, doesn't matter because it always had that potential. It carried that future potential to become a stei achuza, which actually happened. And that's why we treat it as a stei achuza, a big chiddush. Apparently, Rabbi Meir holds, who says that the pasuk is telling us this great chiddush. Maybe the pasuk is simply telling us a more straightforward case. He purchased from his father. Then his father passed away. He inherited it. And then he was magdish it. Perhaps that's what the pasuk is coming to teach us, that we treat it like a stei achuza. Because it actually was already his at the point of hegdish. So what's the point of machlokes here? My love bakamiflik. Apparently the machlokes is about our discussion. The Rabbi Meir Sava. Rabbi Meir holds kinyan peres ki kinyan aguf dami. When a person has right of use, kinyan peres, there's an element of true ownership. Kinyan aguf dami. So in our case, son purchased from father, and it was, when the yovel was being observed, so it's just a kinyan peres. It's considered like full ownership. Ubaha, and in this case, b'misas aviv hu lo yaris leimidi. So now when his father passes away, has his ownership, has his hold, his possession increased? No. It was fully his before, and it's fully his now. Nothing changed. So why should we consider it a stei achuza? When he purchased it, it's full ownership, and it's considered a stei mikna. Just because his father passed away, his ownership doesn't really change much. He always had the whole thing, and he continues to have the whole thing. So who says that should affect a change in status and should result in a relabeling of the field into a stei achuza? That's why you need a pasuk, meis aviv. That's why we need a pasuk to tell us, yeah, there is a change. Fact is, until now it was just purchased from father. Now it's inherited from father. So even though in a practical sense, he didn't really get much more than before. He always had kinyan aguf, and now he has kinyan aguf. It's considered a stei achuza. And now, when he's magdish it, we treat it as such, as a stei achuza. So we need a pasuk for this case. It's a chiddush. So now the pasuk is unavailable for that other case of potential. That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon hold no. Savri kinyan peiros lav kinyan aguf dami. Right of use, right of crops, is not ownership. So back to our case, when the child purchases the field from the father, it's just kinyan and peiros, because it's going to revert to the father at Yovel. So it's not really ownership. Doesn't really have much. When does he really get possession of that field? When the father dies. Now he gets true ownership. Ubaha, in this case, b'misas aviv, when his father passes on, hashtahu dekayaris. Now he's really being yorish the field. Of course, now it's turning into a stei achuz. Of course, if he's magdish now, it's a stei achuz. We don't need a pasuk for that. So this case of father dying and then the son is magdish doesn't require a pasuk that it's treated like a stei achuz. It's clear, it's obvious. Because there was a change of ownership. His hold in the field now expanded, became deeper and more profound. Of course, it's stei achuz. So why do we need a pasuk? For the other case. That potential counts. For a case where the son purchased, was magdish in that state of stei mikna, and then father died. The pasuk's telling you, since at the point of hegdish, there was already that potential for the son really taking over that field as a true owner eventually when father will die. A field that has that potential is also considered different than a stei mikna, which we like a stei achuz. So bottom line, it would appear that the machlekes tanaim revolves around our question of kinyan peiros. Is it kinyan aguf or not? Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak lo'olam emelach ba'alma. Perhaps, typically, everybody agrees, because Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, even Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon will hold kinyan peiros is kinyan aguf dami. And so the machlekes over here is not related to that question. But over here, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, perhaps everybody agrees kinyan peiros is considered like real ownership. If that's the case, so when the son buys it from the father, he's like a real owner. And then when father dies, although now he's yorish, but there wasn't a significant upgrade in his ownership. So who says we're considered a stei achuza? And that's what the pasuk is coming to tell you. We do. Treat it like a stei achuza. So we need the pasuk for the more simple case, which is not so simple now. If that's the case, how did Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon know? Well, that the pasuk is also coming to include that more advanced, exotic case of potential stei achuza. It's based on the way they focused on the words in the pasuk, which apparently is coming to include even that case. The pasuk could simply say, "Look, stei mikna is a stei mikna, which is not a stei achuza." That would automatically tell us that if he purchased it and then became his through Yerusha, even though there was no significant upgrade in ownership, he always had it, he still has it. We treat it like a stei achuza. That's for the most simple case. But the pasuk doesn't stop there. The pasuk says, "Ima stei miknosai asher loy mistei achuzasai." That extra word mistei is coming to include something else. My mistei achuzasai sada sheina ruya liya sada achuza. Coming to tell you what is a stei mikna, something which has no potential to be a stei achuza, as opposed to the case that we're speaking about. where he purchased. Then he was Magdish. Then he was Yerushet. This as well is considered Ste'achuza. You know why? Because when he was Magdish, it already had that potential within it, and therefore we treat it as such. Rabbi Yesi, loved Rabbi Yechanan. Kinyan Peres Kinyan Aguf Dami. If not for the fact that Rabbi Yechanan treats a Kinyan Peres like Kinyan Aguf, we would be in major trouble. Expression, you wouldn't find his hand and feet, meaning we would be really, really stuck in the Beis HaMedrash regarding another halacha. So lucky us. It's lucky that Rabbi Yechanan holds Kinyan Peres is considered like true ownership. What's the problem? Why wouldn't he find his bearings in the Beis HaMedrash? The Amar of Asya Rabbi Yechanan, because Rabbi Yechanan tells us how when two brothers divide an inheritance, a property, we're not sure that this was meant for you and this was meant for you. Maybe you took part of his and he took part of yours. So we view it like a transaction, like there was an exchange, like there was a purchase. You took part of his and instead he took part of yours. It was like a purchase. And as a result, since we treat it like a purchase, what happens? With a sada that's purchased, goes back on Yovel. Come the 50th year, everything reverts back to square one. They have to redivide it. Oh. So not only that, it's going to result in a very peculiar situation. Turns out that every time people are Yerush a field, they can't bring Bikurim. They can't say the Parsha. Because it's just a limited Kinyan. Kinyan until Yovel. Kinyan Peres. If you'll tell me that Kinyan Peres is lav, Kinyan Aguf Dam is not considered like a real ownership, then you can't bring Bikurim. The only way you could is if it's Ben Achar Ben until Yeshua. That, the father who got his plot in Eretz Yisrael in the time of Yeshua only had one son, who passed it on to his one son, etc. Which never involved divisions and transactions. The only one that will bring Bikurim is Elachad, Barchad, Ad Yeshua Benun. Son after son after son, that's it. Otherwise, there will be no Bikurim. But now that we know Kinyan Peres is Kinyan Aguf Dami, then we're safe. So even if it's just a temporary arrangement, it's considered proper ownership, which enables proper Bikurim. Amar Rava, Kro Masnisa, Mesayile Rish Lakish. I have a Mishnah and a Brisa which support Rish Lakish's view that it's only a right of use, it's not a true ownership. What is the pasuk? Kro B'mispar Shnei Tvois Yim Kalach. The pasuk says that when there's Yovel in session, so when you buy a field, it's just you're being sold the amount of crops, so to speak. It's a crop sale. It's a Peres sale. It's not an actual Guf HaKarka sale. That's one raya. Masnisa, the Bryce is the Sanya. B'chor noitel pishnayim. So we know that a firstborn takes double portion from his father's inheritance, provided his father actually took possession of that whatever property. It was really in his possession, rather than just owing to him. If it's just owing to him, it's not muchzak by his father, then the halacha of pishnayim doesn't apply. But the Bryce says that the Bechor will take Pishnayim b'sadach ezeres la'av b'yovel. Let's say his father sold a field, then he passed away. Come the 50th year, Yovel. The buyer returns the field to the father's estate. The father's not here, but it goes back to his family, and the kids now divide the field. Does the Bechor take twice? Yes. What do you mean? It wasn't muchzak to the father. The other person was the owner. And it just arrived now, fresh. The answer is no. Apparently, the father was really the absolute owner all along. The customer had Kinyan Peres. He had right of use, limited ownership. But it was really muchzak by the father. So therefore, when it comes back, the Bechor gets his Pishnayim. It's a right to Rish Lakish. Kinyan Peres of the buyer is lavke Kinyan Aguf. Doesn't interfere with the father's ownership. On the topic of Peres and Guf, says the Gemara, Amar Abaye, in Aktina we have this halacha, that Baal b'nichse ishtay tzarach harasha. We know that a husband can reap the Peres of his wife's nechasim, nichse melog. If he wants to go ahead and get involved with the din Torah against somebody who's, claiming rights to the property of his wife, The husband can't just consider himself a litigant. He needs harsha. He needs an authorization from his wife, a power of attorney to represent her. So he's not really the owner. Why? Because, as we said, even though he has a kinyan peres, that's not kinyan aguf. He's not the owner. She is. But that's only said if he's not arguing about the fruit. They're dealing with the karka, which isn't really his. He has to be authorized for that. But let's say they're going into a discussion about the fruit. What are you doing? Holding my field and my fruit. So then, the husband has a right to oppose that person because you're taking his fruit. Then we say, since he has a right to insert himself into this litigation because of the peiros, which is his personal interest, mishtoi din aguf, he can argue the guf as well, because if you take the guf, I want to have peiros. So by default, I can argue the guf as well. So bottom line, how do we treat kinyan peiros? We have two cases. Case number one, I purchased the peiros. Case number two, I purchased the field, but it's going to go back during Yovel. What is my status regarding Bikurim, regarding Mikra Bikurim? Rabbi Yehuda says, Kinyan Aguf, true ownership. Rish Lakish says, Kinyan Peiros is not Kinyan Aguf. The Gemara does tell us that during Yovel Rishon, Rav Chizek maintained that all agree that even though it's going to revert at Yovel, it's considered Kinyan Aguf. And of course, when there's no Yovel Noyek, of course, there as well, it's considered an absolute kinyan. We had some rayas to Rish Lakish, and we connected it to the halacha of the Baal b'nichse ishte as well. Continues the new parak. Hanizakin, a fellow experienced some damage. Somebody inflicted damage on his friend, whether personal or property damage. So of course he's entitled to compensation, and suppose the perpetrator is going to pay with property. Shaman lahen be'idis. So the bezdin appraises, whatever amount he has to be given. Be'idis. Idis refers to the highest quality property. So if the mazik has, let's say, 3 grades of property, grade A, grade B, grade C, he's obligated to pay the best of the best, grade A. Because of course, typically, we're not talking about getting more in terms of value, but typically a person is willing to take a smaller piece of land of higher quality rather than take a low quality piece of land even though it's bigger. So Nizak and Shamal and Be'idis, they get the best Be'idis, Ubal Chay Be'beinis, when a person collects on his loan, then he only gets medium grade property. When Isha collects on her ksuba, lowest grade. Rabbi Yehuda Isha as well is entitled to medium quality. Continues the Mishnah. So typically, if a person defaults on his loan, the Malva can come collect nechasim mishubatim, even properties which he had sold because of his lien on those properties. But a person should not collect. You can't collect from nechasim mishubatim, properties which are already committed. When we have available properties which are sitting here and available in the hands of the leiva, I feel hands of burrs. That's a chiddush. Even though the ones that are here and available are the worst quality, too bad. That gets priority before going and extracting and expropriating lands from buyers. When you collect from orphans on account of their father's commitment, it's also only from ziburis. Rashi explains, we're dealing with a case where Reuven stole a field and sold it to Shimon. Shimon unknowingly purchases the field, toils on the field, farms the field, he grows peiros, he improves the land, shvach kakores. Now the victim, the nigzal, comes and pulls his karka away from the lekeach, and all he pays him is his expenses. So what happens now? Shimon, the buyer, will go back to Reuven the Gazlan and have many claims on him. The actual purchase price, the money which I paid for, that he can get even from nechasim mishubatim. But the extras, the achilas peiros, the fruit that I lost, the shvach karkos, That's something which is undefined, has no known value, and therefore we don't go to the Mechasim Shabadim, rather Nechasim B'nei Chayrin, as we're going to see in the Gemara. But it's something which is unlimited. You can't hold, buyers accountable, and therefore we go to Nechasim B'nei Chayrin. What else comes from Nechasim B'nei Chayrin? If the women or the girls are exercising their rights to collect for their support, we don't take it from Nechasim Shabadim. We take it olam for the betterment of society. We're going to see in the Gemara. One more halacha. Likewise, a person, upon returning a lost item, is accused of perhaps pocketing part of that item. Right? Why'd you bring back only one basketball? You found two. So typically, a moedah b'miktzas, a partial admitter, is required to make a shvuah, but not in this case. Why? Otherwise, nobody's going to return items, lest they be accused of stealing. Now let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. We say, and all these takanas, including the zaken that get the best quality fields, it's all about tikkun ha'olam. Tikkun ha'olam, which sounds like it's a takana de rabbanon de raisi. It's been Torah. The victim of a nezek is entitled to the best quality lands. Meitav sadei, meitav karma yishalim. Your animal destroys and harms and inflicts damage. You got to pay the best that you have. Amar Rabbi Litzrich Rabbi Shmuel. Going to Rabbi Shmuel, who says no. The Amar midei raisa but nindik shamina min Torah. We determine the grade based on the nizak's grade. So basically, let's say the mazik has three levels of quality, A, B, and C, and the nizak has A, B, and C, but the nizak's best quality property, his A is like the mazik's C. So the mazik only has to pay from his C, which is equivalent in quality to the highest quality of the nizak. It's based on the nizak. That's Minat Torah. Comes our Mishnah and says no. In order to deter and discourage this type of behavior of inflicting damage and being careless with other people's property, you have to give the best of your best. Shaminam b'da mazik. It's all about the mazik and giving his best. Where do we find Rabbi Shmuel? My Rabbi Shmuel. So we begin a long brisa. The Sanya, Meitav Sadeyu, Meitav Karma Yishalim, means like this. The best of whose? Meitav Sadeyu Shal Nizuk, and Meitav Karma Shal Nizuk. Div Rabbi Shmuel. So the Gemara at this point figures, before we get to the conclusion at the end, the Gemara figures, what it means to say is like this. Let's say his animal intruded into the neighbor's field and devoured a patch of his produce. Poor quality produce. Comes the pasuk and says, guess what? You have to pay as though he would have consumed the best of the nizak's produce. That's what the Gemara figures at this point. And that's Shittas Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva disagrees. Rabbi Kiva Aimer, no. You don't pay a penny more than you ate. The pasuk is simply dictating in terms of quality of payment. You ate $100, you pay $100. But you have to pay your best for your best quality land. And certainly when it comes to Hegdish, and again we're going to discuss this later on, the Gemara. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean? Ul Rabbi Shmuel. How could you say according to Rabbi Shmuel, you pay more than you ate? Achal shmeina, b'shal shmeina. So let's say the animal consumed the highest quality produce, worth $100. You pay $100 worth of compensation. So that's understood. But he goes and eats poor quality fruit, which is only worth $50. How can you suggest that he pays $100 worth? As if he ate $100 worth? How does that make sense? So that can't be the Pshat Rabbi Shmuel. Pay more than you ate? No. Omar Rabbi Yehuda was speaking when there is some sort of uncertainty. It's an unknown as to exactly what the animal ate. There were many arugais there, many patches, and the animal consumed one of them. We're not sure which one. Poor quality, high quality, it's gone, right? Was it a chusha, bad? Was it a good quality? The Mishal Meitav says the pasuk, we have to be strict. You pay as though he ate the best quality. So perhaps that's what Rabbi Shmuel meant. Not when we know for sure that you didn't. But we're not sure. Amar Rav, it still doesn't work. Had we have known that he ate a poor quality patch, of course he would only pay $50. Now that we don't know, it's worse. You obligate him to pay like a shmeina, like $100. We know that you can't extract money unless you can prove it. Of course, we're not speaking about paying more than you ate. You ate $100 worth of tomatoes, you pay $100. If you want to pay karka, you can do so. $100 worth of karka. Which quality karka? Should I give you poor quality, larger piece, or higher quality, a smaller piece? And who determines quality? Is it graded based on the mazik's properties, the best of his, or on the nizik's properties, based on the nizik's best? And that's the machlekes. Type A, highest quality of the nizik's fields, wasn't really such high quality. It was kizibur's the mazik. It equaled the worst of the mazik's fields. So again, the mazik is Ruvain. He has 3 fields: quality A, quality B, quality C. The nizik, the victim, is Shimon. He also has 3 fields: quality A, quality B, quality C. But it's all relative, because the nizik's quality A is so bad it matches the mazik's quality C. Now comes the machlekes. When the mazik pays, can he get away with quality C property, or does he have to pay highest quality relative to himself, his best, which would be A on his scale? That's the machlekes. The best quality land of the victim is equal in quality because it burns the mazik like the worst of the mazik. Rabbi Shmuel Savar bidei nizik shamina. It's all about the victim. So the mazik can get away with giving quality C, which is equal to quality A of the nizik. Rabbi Kiva Savar, the mazik shamina, no, it's all about the mazik. Reuben has to give his own highest quality to compensate for that damage. Why? We'll see the Gemara, the drashas, Bez Hashem, tomorrow. Okay, to summarize this last piece, we have a Mishnah with many halachas. Many of them are related to Tikkun Olam, collecting from the best, from the medium, from the worst, which ones can collect from the Chasam Mishabodim, which one only from Neicherin. And the Gemara concluded that, of course, Minat Torah, we have a certain set of guidelines, but the Mishnah was concerned about Tikkun Olam, and therefore they were masakin that a nizak will have to pay idus, the best of the best, according to all shittas. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.